Joining us now from Twin Falls County Prosecuting Attorney Grant Loebs. Mr. Loebs, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So here we are talking about hemp, and you are with the Idaho Prosecuting Attorneys Association. A lot of our listeners say that no one in law enforcement testified against that bill. Is that true?
That is true. The way the schedule was arranged and the way the situation arose, there wasn't at first any belief that we needed to, because we were in the midst of what we believe to be very productive negotiations with the authors and supporters of the bill to fix the problems with it. And so while there was a hearing, it was presented as a hearing just for people who had made the trek from out of town to testify. So there wasn't thought to be at the time any need to come in and say all the things in public that we had been saying private to the sponsors.
Sure, sir. Look, we respect law enforcement. We're on your side on this issue. So what is wrong with the bill for people that are tired of me yapping about it and want to hear from the voice of authority?
Well, I think the first thing, Kevin, to keep in mind is that the position of the prosecutors who I represent is not that we should not have some sort of path forward for farmers in Idaho to grow this product if they can find a legitimate and productive use for it. We actually worked very hard amongst ourselves with other law enforcement people, with other officials in the state government, and with the sponsors of this bill to find a rational, safe, law enforcement friendly way to allow farmers to grow this product. And we came up with the same solution that they've come up with in most states that have gone down this road. So we are not saying that we want to close off Idaho to a possible new agricultural commodity. The problem with this bill is that it has none of the safeguards that are available in other bills of its kind throughout the country. There is no way, the way this bill is drafted, to monitor who grows it, to monitor how it's grown, where it's grown, whether it's hemp or whether it's marijuana. Most importantly, there's no way for law enforcement to tell the difference when they stop a shipment that is purported to be hemp. There's no way to tell whether it is hemp or marijuana. And that's our main concern. I mean, the main concern in a nutshell is that this doesn't allow a differentiation between what would be legal hemp and what is and will still be illegal marijuana.
Right, and you're very clear in that letter. However, you've got a lot of pro-hemp people, and specifically in that letter, Grant, you're talking about, look, the canine dogs will be invalid. There are no field tests. We're going to get a few in labs, but that doesn't help the folks on the street. And look, criminals, that's why they're criminals. They're going to claim everything is hemp when they're pulled over for marijuana or with marijuana.
Sure, and if there's no licensing process for who grows it, if there's no permit process for who ships it, if there's no hemp stamp or something on the product, if there's no way for an officer who stops a truck that is said to have hemp in it to tell the difference, because as you correctly said, there are no roadside tests. The dogs will hit on hemp and marijuana indiscriminately. You can't train a dog to tell the difference between a 0.3% THC content, which is the psychoactive ingredient in both hemp and marijuana. There's no way to tell the difference between 0.3% and 3%. So the dog is just going to say, I think there's marijuana in there, and he's going to be right. Because hemp and marijuana are virtually identical. The difference between them is the content of the THC in it. And so until we solve these problems, until we have a way forward to make the importation of illegal marijuana, solve that problem and keep that from being the result of this bill, then this bill is premature the way it's written. But it can be written effectively. I mean, other states have done it. Kentucky, for instance, I think of it as the birthplace of the legal hemp movement because, the U.S. Senator from Kentucky, Mitch McConnell, who's the Senate Majority Leader, is the person who is primarily responsible for the change in the federal hemp law, which allows states to go down the path of creating legal hemp markets. And in Kentucky, they have all of the safeguards I'm talking about. In fact, the bill that prosecutors and other law enforcement helped to draft to help implement this, notion of Idaho growing hemp is almost directly taken from what they've done in Kentucky. And there's no reason why we shouldn't proceed forward along those lines.
So your message to the Senate as they take a look at this is to hold on. Will you folks have an opportunity to testify as the Senate considers this, sir?
Yes, I think we absolutely will. We will also have an opportunity, of course, to impact the way the Senate treats this bill because the Senate, will start over. They go through their committee process just like the House did. In that Senate committee, they will be able to look at all of the details that I've just talked about and others. They'll be able to take into account the concerns of law enforcement, and they will be able to look at the way other states have done this, and hopefully they will amend the House bill to make it a safe bill and to, prevent it from becoming just an avenue for illegal marijuana.
Obviously, you folks and all of law enforcement monitoring when that committee will have the public hearings and when you folks will be there.
Right. And, you have mentioned, and I should give credit, too, to the other law enforcement people. The letter you're talking about, while it is on the Prosecuting Attorneys Association letterhead, it was signed by the presidents of the Prosecutors Association, the Idaho Fraternal Order of Police, the Idaho Sheriff's Association, the Idaho Chiefs of Police. Law enforcement in Idaho is uniformly against the bill that was passed by the House and uniformly in support of seeing the changes that we suggested to the House and implemented in the Senate.
Grant, anything else that you'd like to share with us? We appreciate you coming on. And again, you go back to parts of this letter, talking about HB 122 includes no protections for law enforcement and will effectively legalize marijuana in the state, which I believe everyone wants to avoid.
Well, I think a lot of people do. There's a growing movement in Idaho to join the rest of the Northwest in, legalizing marijuana, and that's a debate we should have up front. And honestly, if that's the position of people, let's talk about that. But the advertised position of the people supporting this hemp bill is to provide a legal, safe market for hemp for Idaho farmers to grow a new product. And if that's the goal, that can be done. And I want to reiterate again that it's not the position of Idaho's prosecutors to keep farmers from having a foothold in the hemp market. If they can make a profit in growing hemp for legal purposes, I'm all for that. I just don't want it to become a smokescreen for people, mostly from out of state, to pump marijuana into Idaho.
Thank you, Grant. Please keep us up to date. We appreciate you, sir.
Thank you. It's been nice being on your show.
And there we have it from the Twin Falls Prosecuting Attorney's Office. Again, still waiting for the Chief, Craig Kingsbury, to get a hold of us. Again, this is not a Twin Falls show, but we'd love to get the Chief on because of our past relationship with him when he was the police chief in Nampa. Phone number's here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. So we have the prosecuting attorney in Twin Falls telling us the issue. By the way, we sent it out to people in Ada County and Canyon County as well. We didn't hear back. Mr. Lowe's was the only person that responded to our request. And again, we want to get both sides out. Look, if we have pro-hemp farmers, we'll speak with them as well. So that is the other side of the hemp debate. Hopefully it will be put on the back burner. And there's a lot going on. We've got the urban renewal. We've got bump stocks. So what we need to do is just kind of rehearse, rehash, refocus at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And remember, not only is KIDO Talk Radio your home for Fox News on the radio and Kevin Miller in the morning, but also for Channel 7 News. And we love Channel 7. As Ray Amaya reminds me, 20 years Channel 7 has been with KIDO Talk Radio, whether it's 580 AM or 107.5 FM. But a disturbing piece of information coming out concerning that horrific crash on Cherry Lane in Meridian. You remember when you had a big pickup, two big pickups, people dying from it. And I remember hearing that crash, and what was it like? There was, a Tundra and an F-150, something like that? Those are big pickup trucks. So now, thanks to a report from the Idaho Department of Transportation, if you believe the Statesman, they said they filed a FOIA request to get it. The driver who caused the accident, according to published reports, was under the influence, or not under the influence, had marijuana in his system. Let's get the latest from Dee Sarton on KIDO Talk Radio.
The Department of Transportation has released a report on that crash that killed 4 people last month in Meridian. You might remember it happened February 8th on Cherry Lane near Black Cat Road. 48-year-old David Fernandez Sr., 24-year-old Trey Hernandez, 22-year-old David Fernandez Jr., and 61-year-old Brian Walter were all killed. Police say that Brian Walter was going the wrong way before colliding with a pickup truck. The report just released by ITD finds Walter was at fault. Marijuana and failure to stay in his lane are listed as factors. It does not say how much marijuana he used or when he used it. The report also says Fernandez Sr., driving the truck, had enough alcohol in his system to impair his driving ability, but the level was below the legal limit.
So there we have it. Drinking, marijuana. This is no joy in Mudville for the people that have lost family members, real-life family members in this case. But it underscores what we have been talking about for quite some time, saying no to letting any sense of marijuana come into the state of Idaho. Now you're going to say, well, Kevin Miller, accidents happen. You ever go down that street, people are flying by Cherry Lane, Black Cat Road, that sort of thing. Just like on Chinden, just like everywhere else in the hinterlands where the real people live. However, if this doesn't pause the needle on, when people say to me, well, what's the harm? This is the harm right here. This is the harm right here that could have been avoided, could have been prevented. Let's talk about it next. Looking forward to your thoughts on joining the conversation with me, Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. More details from this troubling wreck on Cherry Lane where one of the drivers was enjoying some marijuana or had marijuana in his system, according to published reports. According to the investigation, Officer Fernandez Sr. was driving west on Cherry Lane near Black Cat when he was hit. Walter was driving east in the westbound lane, coming directly towards the other vehicle. The road was straight. It was still light out, although clouds were gathering. The snowstorm that rolled in that night had not yet begun. Quote, Walter made no attempt to maneuver away from Fernandez's vehicle and struck Fernandez's vehicle completely within the westbound lane of West Cherry Lane, the officer wrote. Now, again, these are big vehicles. One, a Nissan Titan, the other, an F-250. Fernandez's Nissan Titan spun on impact, and the trailer he was pulling slammed into the rear of the truck. Walter's F-250 also rotated, coming to a stop straddling the north fog line, according to investigators. Walter's drug impairment and failure to maintain his lane are listed as contributing factors to the wreck. Although he tested positive for marijuana, the crash report does not specify how much marijuana he used or how long before the crash he had used it. Fernandez's senior alcohol level were also listed as a contributing factor. He tested .061, high enough to indicate he had consumed alcohol, but below the .08 legal driving limit. Walter was wearing a seatbelt when the wreck happened. None of the passengers in the other pickup wore seatbelts, and investigators say it's not clear whether the driver, Fernandez Sr., wore his. A fundraiser was set up to pay for the Fernandez family's funeral and medical bills, has raised more than $33,000. So here you have an accident that could have been avoided. 61-year-old Brian Walter, the wrong way driver, three or four people dead because of this. It is a scary world that we live in, a truly scary world that we live in. Why do we want to continue to increase the probability of accidents by legalizing an already legal and lethal weed?
The Department of Transportation has released a report on that crash that killed 4 people last month in Meridian. You might remember it happened February 8th on Cherry Lane near Black Cat Road. 48-year-old David Fernandez Sr., 24-year-old Trey Hernandez, 22-year-old David Fernandez Jr., and 61-year-old Brian Walter were all killed. Police say that Brian Walter was going the wrong way before colliding with a pickup truck. The report just released by ITD finds Walter was at fault. Marijuana and failure to stay in his lane are listed as factors. It does not say how much marijuana he used or when he used it. The report also says Fernandez Sr., driving the truck, had enough alcohol in his system to impair his driving ability, but the level was below the legal limit.
Thank you, Dee Sarton. And I'm Kevin Miller here, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And like I said, when you hear this devastating news, now some people are going to go, well, Kevin, it's no big deal. Everybody has a doob. Everybody is doing this. But this report from our friends at Channel 7 indicates that one of the drivers, the one that caused the wreck, was under the influence. And what have we heard from people that have been around people with marijuana? Look, do you want your surgeon to be a dope smoker? Well, it's the same thing as alcohol. No, alcohol gets out of your system a lot quicker. Do you want your airline pilots to be smoking the weed? I don't think so. Do you want your bus driver for your kids to be under the influence of marijuana? No, I don't think so. And this is what we've seen in other states, whether it's Colorado or whatever. Now, I just got some information cautioning me about my anti-hemp stance. Kevin Miller, watch out. The farmers are mad at you. Kevin Miller, Big Ag, wants the hemp. Kevin Miller, careful, careful. Just remember what happened to you and Obama. And to my inside source within the ag community, I appreciate that. And look, we love the farmers. We want them to succeed. But just like Mr. Loeb said, want to make sure that there's a test to determine the difference between marijuana and hemp. Because there isn't a test, then we can go back to this, where if there are no protections for law enforcement, hemp legalization under the current legislation will effectively legalize marijuana in this state. Now, can you pass a hemp bill with a week left in the session? It depends on how much lawmakers respect law enforcement. And as you heard, they will be there to testify when that bill comes up before the Senate. At 580-5436, 580-KIDO. So here we have it, spelled out, convincing evidence that we should not be legalizing marijuana, not coming close to legalizing marijuana in this state. Number one. Number two, when we take a look at the legislative session, we've got dueling Medicaid bills. One requiring people to work, one not requiring people to work. And you think to yourself, what does it take to be a state representative? What does it take to be a state senator? Maybe a lot of work, a lot of sacrifice. But is time management really practiced in the state legislature? Because once again, well, we'd like to wrap it up by Tuesday. Well, we haven't funded this thing. There are two issues, I believe, that should have been week one. No, not and thankfully for the pet-friendly license plate or the other proposal to stop the hate license plate or any of the other really, really good proposals that we had, there should have been two big issues. First month of the session, Medicaid expansion, how we're going to pay for it, and repealing the grocery tax. By the way, I don't buy the argument that there's not enough money to repeal the grocery tax. A friend of mine said, what was it, just last month that we had a $50 million surplus again? $50 million surplus. I guess that whacks out the $60 million shortfall that we had from last year. The state is raking in the money. And look, educators now, starting pay is going to be $40,000 for teachers. Where did we get that money from? And look, I'm not going to pit people against the teachers. We don't play that game. However, at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, it seems to me that if somebody has a pet project, like paying teachers, we want good teachers, consistency is one of the roots of success, then we should have the money to at least put this before a committee to debate the issue of repeal of the grocery tax. And let this be a lesson to you. I just don't see the marijuana legalization happening here in Idaho. And tragically, we've seen people that have lost their lives because of somebody under the influence or smoking or whatever you want to call it. At 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Your call's next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Good morning, Kevin.
Blessed to be with you. Thank you, Sean Hannity. Jeff Manasso joining us, Fox News Radio, with the latest on the flooding in the Midwest. Jeff, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Kevin. Yeah, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers says that 200 miles of levees are compromised with record flood levels at 42 locations in 6 states. At least 12 levees have breached along the Missouri in just the last week, and thousands have fled for higher ground as the Missouri River continues to rise north of Kansas City.
You take a look at this. Is this one of those once-in-a-100-year floods?
Well, if you talk to people up and down the Missouri River, or even folks in the Mississippi River Valley Basin, they'll tell you that they haven't seen water like this in years. But hardest hit right now is along the Missouri. It's the towns of Elwood, Kansas, Craig, Missouri, Fremont, Nebraska, and I mean, just the list is long, where hundreds and hundreds of structures are underwater, and businesses and homes and farmland and cattle have been lost. And we know that the Nebraska National Guard is actually actively dropping hay for stranded cattle in Nebraska. Just that state alone is saying that damage to crops, to livestock, is going to top $1 billion, and that's just for agriculture. So it's a mess, and many of them say that they've been there for generations and they have never seen anything like this.
Indeed, when we take a look at this, and that area of the country, how populated is it?
Well, some 2 million people are affected by what we're seeing at this point across multiple states. You look up into Minnesota and Wisconsin, ice jams are causing many local rivers to flood. You look at parts of the South, Missouri, along the Missouri, along the Mississippi, and the South is now bracing for what officials say could be weeks of flooding along the Missouri and Mississippi River Valley Basin in the coming days. There's more rain in the forecast across the central U.S., though meteorologists say the models keep the heaviest precipitation south of the flooded zone. I think locally, they're expecting probably an inch of rain possible for Missouri and Mississippi rivers, Nebraska and Iowa, and Missouri and Kansas. But they haven't seen water like this in quite some time. A lot of it's because of the snow melt, the higher temps, and obviously that bomb cyclone that we saw that dumped all that snow in your region, and then brought heavy rains, historic rains, and now historic flooding.
Any type of relief outside of state national guards and state governments?
Well, the federal government is bringing in resources. We saw Vice President Mike Pence there earlier this week in touring some damage in Nebraska and saying that federal resources, federal help is on the way. But you always see this whenever there's a major disaster. One of the silver linings is that when there's a disaster, that's when people come together. And these towns, I mean, they're brothers and sisters. I mean, they're one. They are working with one goal, one purpose, and that's saving their towns and saving their neighbors' homes, and we're seeing a lot of that, and I think that's pretty neat.
Jeff Manasso, as always, we appreciate you, and stay dry, my friend.
You bet.
Thank you. Jeff Manasso joining us. Remember, when you hear Fox News on the radio, you're listening to KIDO Talk Radio. That's 107.5 FM, 580 AM, Idaho's first radio station. Usually we pride ourselves, and maybe this is a mistake, we pride ourselves on being a show about the region, right? We love the region. It's all about the region. And the city of Boise, because everybody seems to be Boise-centric, It's always about, the city of Boise this, the city of Boise that. And I think that this area is more than just the capital of the state, right? So it's very rare that we cover something specific to Boise. But I think when it comes to our politicians, and maybe the question should be pondered to you, is what type of reactive politicians do we have? To me, it seems that somebody has taken a course on good public relations. We have the governor of the state releasing a thing on Instagram or one of these things where he's surrounded by his staffers that they're rooting for Gonzaga, the Zags, in the bracket challenge. Now I know what you're going to say. Kevin Miller, what's wrong with that? The governor's having a little fun. Governor's a nice man. I think the governor is up to the challenge. Governor's always been nice to me. But is that really important to find out? Well, it humanizes the political process. So we have Governor Little and his staffers. Now, I guess if you're not from Gonzaga, you're kind of you're isolated. To me, I don't know. I think that we need to make our public officials more. I'd worry. I'd like to hear. This is what I'd like, with due respect, because I have a great deal of admiration, respect for Governor Little, just like I did for former Governor Otter. We don't always agree, but we take each other with a grain of salt. I'd much rather hear what our politicians have to say about repealing the grocery tax, about Medicaid expansion, than their favorite sports teams. Now, again, this is counter to the narrative because everybody's about my bracket this, my bracket that, and maybe I'll be wrong. Wouldn't be the first time in my career. But that pales into comparison to what Mayor Beater is doing. And if you don't know who Mayor Beater is, he's the guy that runs Boise. He's the guy that wants to build the big library, the big stadium, using urban renewal money. He's mad because Mike Moyle, the House Majority Leader, the Republican from Star, Idaho, has introduced a bill that passed the House that now is being pondered in committee by conservative state Senator Jim Rice and others on whether or not urban renewal money should be used at the discretion of mayors. Or the people should have a right to vote on whether or not they want to build a new downtown stadium at taxpayer expenses, right? So we've got this big festival in town, Tree Fort, if you're into that. Look, I admire the people that put this on. It is truly a grassroots effort. And now everybody's trying to get on the Tree Fort train. I love Tree Fort this, Tree Fort that. And it's very unique to the Treasure Valley. So now you have the mayor of the city of Boise launching this campaign called Boise Kind, where he urges people to be kind. The other day, somebody called me from California and asked about this area. I said, people here are kind. So remember when the Christmas tree lighting ceremony and he had the family up there and he said, we're a welcoming city and everybody's welcome here. Do we really need Mayor Beater, whether you live in Boise or not, dictating to people to be kind? Really what this is a way of co-opting the negative publicity associated with the move to spend more money. Look, if you live or have a business in the city of Boise, you're taxed to death. And Mayor Beater shrewdly comes to ribbon cuttings and everything else. Look, his family is long established. Whether you agree with them or not, they are part of this city and this area's legacy. But that doesn't mean that we can't politely and with respect say, is this really something that we're all about? And that's where our area is a little different. Even when we disagree, we do so politely. But at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, again, mayor's getting ready to run for re-election. So why not launch this thing to be kind, foster kindness? When have we ever had an issue in this area where people were not kind? Well, the criminals are not kind, but that's why they're criminals. Let's take a listen. Again, this is from our friends at Channel 7.
And I actually have a special guest here. Look who it is. Boise Mayor
Wow. She's a little giddy.
Dave Beater. Now, you just spoke about this. You're launching the Boise Kind Initiative.
Absolutely.
Talk to us about it.
Well, we want to keep what we love about Boise, and that fundamentally is kindness. And Tree Fort really exemplifies that. And the bands all feel that. We're giving out free chorizo's here at Woodland Empire to get the point across. We're going to have you can log onto our website, Boise Kind, and log acts of kindness and run that up. You know, as we get bigger, it's so important that we get that across to people and that we not only stay kind, but get even kinder. So that's.
Now, again, you're not going to hear this in Santa Clara. You're not going to hear this in Seattle, right? You're not going to hear it in Portland where, the mayor in Portland went after the ICE folks, right? You're not going to hear that. This is very unique to Idaho. So you have Mayor Beater basically saying, look, be kind. Now, again, for me, outing myself as a curmudgeon, there's no secret there. Hey, man, I think we are kind. Now, the criminals, the bad people, Timmy Kenner and others, they're not kind. That's why they're in the jail. But at 580-5436, I just find this ridiculous. Maybe I just don't get it. Maybe I need another 20 years of indoctrination to understand it. But be kind. Be kind, everybody.
So we're working on.
Be kind.
If they last, you'd come down and have a free charity show. But we appreciate everybody coming out for Tree Fort, one of the great festivals in the country.
Thank you so much for your time. I know that you have a kickoff party going on here, so we will let you get to your guests. But thank you so much for your time. And
thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Oh, boy. Again, very giddy there. So my point as we mosey along here, do we really want our elected officials to have fun? When you're at work, does your boss care if you have fun? When you're at work, do the people that work with you, for you, around you, really care if you have fun? Yeah, it's a great working environment. It's this kind of thing. But really, in reality, wouldn't we want our elected officials, again, maybe I'm reaching here, and next time, if we ever have the governor on, he only seems to appear on Channel 6. I don't know why. Oh, that's right, his press secretary used to work at Channel 6. But regardless of that, if we ever have the governor on, the funny thing about that is that I'd ask him about the grocery tax bill. I don't think that really people want to know about your favorite basketball team. And there are a lot of people that went to Gonzaga, great university, that have this pride. But is that a government endorsement of it? That pales into comparison to the Be Kind project. And by the way, I think we should just say to everybody that calls in, be kind. Be kind. So what happens if you disagree with someone? Does that mean you're not kind? Be kind. Let's go to Shelley in Nampa on KIDO Talk Radio. Be kind, Shelley. Be kind.
I'm always kind. I try to be. But I don't really get what you're saying about, like, what is wrong with being kind or reminding people. I mean, especially in the environment that we're in. I guess I listen to Glenn Beck a lot, and he always says, would you be criticizing this person if they were your party? You know, like, say it wasn't a Democratic mayor. Say it was a Republican mayor.
Right.
Say it wasn't Donald Trump, but it was Obama. I mean, I just don't get you're criticizing somebody for reminding them to be kind, but yet the president is saying mean things all the time.
I think the president is reacting to what is, I think the president is reacting to what's said about him, and he's dishing it out as well as taking it. And I think it's ridiculous, answering your question, that it's an oversimplification of the issues that matter when you have a mayor going, be kind. To me, it's oversimplistic. That's my opinion on it.
Well, I think we need to be reminded, and I think being told to be kind is never a bad thing.
Right. But wait a minute. But what you said, being told to be kind. So I don't need an elected official who's a Democrat to tell me to be kind. I don't need a Republican to do that. It's called my family. It's called a church. It's called accountability. I mean, again, answering your thought, I'm going back to this. I just don't think that it's appropriate. Now I'm going to zip it and listen to you, ma'am.
No, I'm just saying it's whether they're Republican, whether they're Democrat, whether it's a minister or a family member. Anybody saying, be kind, be nice, be good. I mean, he's not like dictating us and saying you have to, or I'm going to put you in jail. But I mean, it's a nice reminder, I think, that, I don't see nothing wrong with it. And I'm just trying to think why you think, I think
it's ridiculous. And just it's ridiculous that, again, to your point about Glenn Beck, I opened it up by saying I think it's ridiculous that the governor is urging us to root for Gonzaga. I don't care about Gonzaga. You know what I care about? I care about why taxes are high in Boise. I care about why the city streets are being condensed for bike lanes. That's what I care about.
No, I get that too, Kevin. It's just that you can do two things at once. Like, just because he likes the sports doesn't mean he's not working on other things too. Those things can coexist. You know what I'm saying? But I do agree with you. You know, the issues, the grocery tax, all that. I'm totally for that, and I'm glad you bring that up every day because I think that's important. And you know, I'm just trying to get your thought on why you're so offended by somebody saying to be kind. But I maybe it's the way he's saying it. Maybe, you know,
be kind. I just again, it's just one of those goofy things, Shelley. I just be kind. Be kind.
You totally have the right to your thoughts, your opinions. I get it. This is why with that. But you know, everybody's got their different reactions, their different thoughts, and I respect that.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. So you think it's okay? Look, you know why I have an issue with it? I think it's just a ploy to raise his positives during Tree Fort to ingratiate himself with folks to get himself reelected. Okay. That's my issue.
So that's different then. Yeah, okay, I get it. You have a reason to think. But to just say to be kind in general, what is wrong with that? But okay, you think it's like a ploy, a diversion, yeah. Okay, that's different. You have an actual reason. I just wanted to know, what on earth? Why would you not want people to be kind or say to be kind, you know? But that's cool. I get it. Well, I just wanted to see why you would think that, but it's good.
Well, Shelley, thank you, and appreciate the conversation, ma'am.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate you taking my call.
You have a great day, ma'am. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.
What a nice young lady. Like I said, and maybe my sarcasm is, as Art Gregory likes to say, or David Ferdinand likes to say, my sarcasm is dripping through, but not everybody gets it. But be kind. Be kind. You know, maybe I do need to be kind. 580-5436. 580-KIDO. Here's a way to be kind. How about instead of continuing to annex land for more houses, we put a stamp or restriction on growth? Would that be being kind? Chuck and Meridian, hang on. You're next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Taking your calls about the issues that matter to you. Chuck and Meridian, thank you for your patience. Good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Good morning, Kevin. My name's Chuck. I'm here in Meridian, and I do mental health. My favorite saying for my clients is to be kind is to be cruel. Kindness wallows in sympathy. Sympathy helps no one. We need to walk with people in empathy. We need to understand what people are going through, but let them go through it so they can learn from it. What the mayor's trying to do is associate conservatism with cruelty. We are not cruel. It's liberalism that is cruel. When I provide someone, I deny them the opportunity to provide for themselves. How cruel of me. How insulting to tell anybody that they can't take care of themselves. They need me to do it. Kindness, the way it's described by liberalism, is the cruelest act a human being can instill on another human being. And people don't get it. They think, this is my way to heaven. It's not. Teach a man to fish. Quit feeding him. Let him have the dignity of taking care of himself. Kevin, that's all I got. I love listening to you in the morning. You are my light. Have a good day.
Thank you, Chuck. Appreciate that. And outstanding call. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio, traffic and weather together. Kevin Miller in the morning here, KIDO Talk Radio. Coming up next, much more of Fox News. But we sure appreciate folks calling in about the Be Kind campaign. And the idea that politicians use public sympathy, public viewpoints to further their agenda and to silence us is disturbing. We continue on, though, telling the truth and hearing the truth from you. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.